What's up, everyone? We're currently live with day 2 of the Quake World Championships. Catch up and flee at your service, where sadly, we have reached that time of the tournament. It is now time to say goodbye to players, as we are now in lower bracket territory, starting off with DANDAKING versus CHA1N. One of these two is out of QuakeCon.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw DANDAKING lose against Rafa earlier, right? And then CHA1N dropped against Nosfa. So we are in the lower bracket. Both of these players have expended all their lifelines. They've got to make it count right here, right now. Still a best of 3. So whoever loses 2 maps is out.
Now, I've got to give a shout out to some of these skins that DANDAKING is using. I was told the lore. I was told the lore of these skins about Steege, and I believe bets are made with Steege about being able to pick the skins if DANDAKING loses, and I think even a bet was made with Rafa that Rafa could choose one of the skins.
Of course.
So expect really some of the more horrific options, nice and easy to spot out in the open.
I mean, brings me back to the Quake Live days when you pick Keel, Bright Green, Neon, everything against brown pigment backgrounds. But this is, of course, Quake Champions. Things don't quite work the same. We're starting it off on DANDAKING's point of view. DANDAKING persisting with the visor on Awoken. Ketchup, not something you see every day. We talked to him about it behind the scenes. He said that he feels like he's got a very good track record, that he almost always wins using visor on this map, even though it's relatively small and there's less utility to that piercing side. But, you know, let's see how it goes down this time. He didn't even get to the final map against Rafa, so he wasn't able to play him, but now we're starting off with it.
Yeah, just a chance to once again just see if that track record is going to continue. You know, CHA1N, a player that has been extremely motivated coming into the World Championships, hasn't quite had the success I think that he really wanted to have. His wins have been quite close. Fighting off against Nosfa earlier today didn't quite go his way, hence here we are in lower bracket. But there's plenty of time in these 2 maps at least to save yourself and just keep yourself nice and healthy, as the stress of being in this situation really does change everything for you. The aggressive ghost walk at that point kind of seemed like CHA1N was so close, may as well dedicate. Because if you're escaping, you're just still going to be out in the open, you're still going to be damageable, so why not reappear and get some kind of unexpected close range damage. Sadly misses that rail though.
DANDAKING was ready for it though. He figured that the aggressive ghost walk was coming. Fired the rocket, maybe was just like, you know, just in case, right? Got a little bit of extra damage right there, but insufficient to stop CHA1N's push right there. Now very little item delay, right? Mega heavy up at around the same second, so neither player is probably going to be able to establish consistent control just yet. But let's see. CHA1N sitting near the heavy, DANDAKING already set up towards the Mega.
A little bit of that Eternal Tri-Bolt. He's expecting some kind of rail fight here, able to finally pick that one up and start to compete. DANDAKING, a lot more armor, but one swift rail or one swift rocket will deal with that. The defensive rail to stop that rocket jump dead in its tracks. However, CHA1N had to be a little bit careful. Who's going to be the first one there? That was an absolutely fantastic direct. And that's going to set up to the rest. Super shotgun to finish the job, 2-0 now. And another pretty decently placed rocket. The fact that it even hit on its own, just good prediction there from CHA1N. DANDAKING fresh off spawn deciding, right, going to get my hands on a rail and I'm going to try and be able to compete at range. Getting chipped down by those rails from CHA1N is not the way you want to play this map.
DANDAKING is being exceptionally aggressive, I feel like. You know, he walked up to rail with nothing but the tri-bolt, then he drops down, picks up the heavy, shoots himself right back up, rocket jumps, and then, you know, goes in for it again. So, super aggressive plays by the Australian right here, and CHA1N so far has had the answer to them.
That's the thing at this level. Aggression like that is often usually met in a much bigger return. We saw that a lot yesterday. Someone's ran this corner or going far too fast. All it takes is that one defensive rocket, 100 damage, and then before you know it, you're done. Now, before going down, CHA1N did manage to hit a really, really good rocket. However, it doesn't really matter because there's armor to work with there. There's access to the Mega that was picked up as well. But CHA1N with the lead. That's the piercing sight, though. CHA1N going to be able to absolutely defend against that one. So rocket first, a rail soon to follow. And it's going to be that health. More rockets that CHA1N is just hitting max damage on. It's very, very good.
These are not easy rockets either, right? Mid-airs from quite a distance away. Oh, 87 points of health. DANDAKING was railable. CHA1N wasn't there to find the angle though. Again, see DANDAKING. He was railable, CHA1N was not, and still he sticks around, looking for more damage. Those are big risks that he's taking.
That piercing sight is going to allow for a little bit of that LG juggle, but not enough to land that rail. Had that rail hit its mark, I feel like DANDAKING would have tried his luck up that jump pad, maybe. Something to try and force away from that Mega, being able to take control. Another 100 damage rocket from CHA1N, whose damage output in this map has been, I was going to say off the chain, unironically, but you know what, I'll save myself from the accidental pun.
Yeah, big damage from CHA1N. CHA1N is nearly at 2,000 points of damage. DANDAKING barely above 1,000. So CHA1N's nearly doubling his opponent's damage output right now, which is pretty obscene, given that we're not even halfway throughout this map.
At this stage, we're going to do what we normally do on Awoken. We're going to disengage into these less common areas near LG. Plenty of light, and the light armor certainly going to help things. But now CHA1N can once more go back into this information game. You know, can I see you? Can I hear you? The heavy's just been taken, so CHA1N's going to have a rough idea over what that timing's going to be. The Mega as well that DANDAKING likely going to collect, but as you can see up top, was looking to push forward and maybe get some damage first, which is often a much more optimal way of approaching an item pickup, especially if you know it's uncontested. There's no way they can take it before you. But I think CHA1N at this point, Flea, looks pretty content. Yeah. Just play careful, play slow. Almost got sent through the death hole there. Thankfully did not.
Mega's about to spawn. CHA1N is one in position. DANDAKING tried showing his face. Immediately ate a rocket. Oh, he's still sticking around. OG on LG. DANDAKING switches to rockets, but at this point, too little, too late. Yes, CHA1N. The Mega spawned, and at that point, DANDAKING just doesn't really have a way out, right? What can you do? The only thing you can really do is drop down, but then you put yourself in just as much of a precarious position as before.
I think CHA1N was almost thinking about that one, but obviously we'll do the safe thing. Not push forward on the teleporter. That would have been possibly suicide in that situation. But it's hitting some really good rails. And these rails, there's no armor, but the defensive spam from DANDAKING certainly the right thing to do. As now he got himself that really important item in this situation. Has been able to back off, collect a little bit of armor himself. But we have to look at the clock. CHA1N is not afraid to slow the match down to a snail's pace, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's got a 5 frag buffer. There's no rush for him to do anything else apart from this at the moment, and pressure is on DANDAKING for sure.
Absolutely. 3 minutes left to go. CHA1N sitting pretty in the lead. And you have to keep in mind, this is Awoken. This is like Nyx, her absolute top playground. She is, I think, by a pretty significant margin, the most popular, the most powerful champion for this map. And now we're at a point where DANDAKING essentially needs to break her, not once, but twice every single engagement, because CHA1N is going to use that Ghost Walk so effectively to get out. Now he might be done for here. Nice little, oh my god.
Lovely.
Using that wall jump ability to get a little bit of extra air, then the rocket through the doorway. Yes, DANDAKING cleans up the frag now, but what? The deficit remains the same, right? They're still 5 frags apart. This is only helping CHA1N.
And in 20 seconds time, another Ghost Walk is in DANDAKING's future that he's going to have to try and deal with. So at the moment, CHA1N, once more, been doing what he's been doing for what feels like the past 5 minutes. Just abusing that lead. There's no rush to go in. There's no need to get some fights going. It's been all defensive play. Defensive rockets, defensive rails. That's a trade that he doesn't want. Looking for it, and there's the Ghost Walk just to waste a little bit more time. Does DANDAKING get the right call out? Doesn't look like it. DANDAKING prioritizes that middle ground instead. In doing so does mean he can pick up a lot of what's on the map, but being so far away, it's a free heavy. CHA1N's going to spawn right next to it, and of course he's going to take it. Again, 100 damage.
I feel like I'd love to see the ratio between rockets fired and damage dealt, or direct you know, rockets landing, because it must be off the charts when it comes to Chain.
That was another 100 damage, by the way. Right as you said that, it was another 100 damage. I want to look at this overall damage, actually, from the rocket launcher. Must be pretty substantial. Chain hitting 1.4 thousand. Just for reference, DANDAKING has had much less of a result with that, but I think that's naturally just part of the playstyle, part of the matchup, perhaps. Chain's rockets have been almost double that of DANDAKING so far. Another rail to open things up. 30 seconds on the clock. I mean, this is done, for sure.
Yep,
this first map's going to be a comfortable win for Chain. One that really matches his playstyle. Nyx on this map is something that has historically just gone one way or the other. If it works, it's frustrating because she's got the invincibility, the vanish. She's got the ability to get herself out of these horrible situations for this slow game. But when it doesn't work, she gets absolutely obliterated. Now, thankfully for Chain, someone in that crowd is screaming.
I can tell, man.
Someone in that crowd, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, but like when it comes to Awoken, right, you either want to make sure that Nyx is banned or no longer available, or you want to be the one to play her yourself. And this time it was Chain who got to pick the S-tier choice for the map that is Awoken. And the results, they kind of speak for themselves. Of course, there's more to it than just the champion pick, but Chain is looking supremely confident. DANDAKING, this is his final shot at staying in the tournament, and if he loses the next map, he's out.
I'm a little concerned for DANDAKING. I was before we even started this. Main reason being, I don't think DANDAKING is particularly confident about today. You know, I'm certainly not making any excuses or anything, but this is a LAN. People are traveling in from all over the world. People have different levels of comfort, I guess, with this environment.
Yeah.
And I do believe DANDAKING has had, like, the last couple of nights as adjusting to everything has been a bit of a challenge, you know. So I think DANDAKING has been awake for quite a long time, I heard, while I was having lunch. And I was speaking to him and I was like, how do you feel about this match? And normally when I speak, I've spoken to DANDAKING in the past, or I've at least been a part of that conversation. He's been comfortable that he can do what he needs to do, you know, because he has been around for many, many years. This is not his first rodeo. But today was the first time I'd really heard doubt, just due to various reasons. And I really hope he can kind of just get that spring back in his step for this next match, and it's not going to be just a 2-0, because Chain, not really worried about any of that. You know?
I mean, I was just talking before his previous game against Rafa about like the cheeky confidence that he's had the past couple of days, right? With him behind the scenes saying, oh yeah, that game against Chain, lost it on purpose just so I could go up against Rafa right away, right? And then he was talking about like, oh, I just want to get far enough so I can beat Zeneku, show him who's the best Aussie in the league, right? So the fact that you're mentioning that now, that he's apparently like not really feeling it going into these games, that's telling, because that's very much unlike what I've grown to accustomed to.
I fear that it's been one of those days. You know, when tournament day rolls around, sometimes it just ain't your day. And I do worry that that's going to happen to DANDAKING. Let's hope that it doesn't. Let's hope that we go into a final map scenario. However, checking things out from Chain's point of view, the Anarchy has been selected, Chain's personal favorite.
This is, again, a very, very favorable pick for Chain. We unfortunately didn't get to have a look at, you know, the full picks and bans, so we don't really know how it went down. But yeah, these matchups so far have absolutely not favored DANDAKING. I'm curious. I'd like to see how, you know, it got to that point.
We start this fight in that center room, as we always do. And there's that Pika now. A little bit of that opening damage from Chain, with the armor advantage, and sadly for DANDAKING and those defensive rockets, hitting a lot more floor than person. That means that Chain's going to get a relatively clean frag here, and now with this heavy free pickup by all accounts. And as we push forward for our next attack, what's it going to be? Looks for some vertical rockets. A little bit too close for comfort though. That one's going to clip the wall, doing a bit more damage to Chain. Again though, a ranged rocket, 100 damage. I mean, the way that Chain has just been, it's almost like a homing rocket at this point. Against a target like Strog as well, I mean, that's not a slow target. Whoa! God! Hello there.
Oh, goodness. Excellent reads. I love it. Horizontal rocket jump as well. Oh, DANDAKING not ready for the speed. Whoa, okay.
almost a trade.
Yeah, that was a surprising amount of damage that the Australian player managed to pull out of absolutely nowhere right there. CHA1N coming around the corner. Him still sitting there motionlessly. I figured that would be clean.
CHA1N did the right thing there. They're both racing towards that red room where there's so many lights to pick up, and CHA1N understanding that he's not going to get there first. And even if he did, DANDAKING still would have had the high ground from that range. So decided to play it safe. Didn't choose to go in there and try and get some more damage on deck because it could have just given DANDAKING an opening. And on a map like Corrupted Keep, you never want to give someone an opening. You want that momentum. You want to have that control as we push towards our next item, of which going to be the Mega. And I think there's only just enough time that maybe you could cement yourself. We are playing two nimble champions, so I guess we're going to find out. Oh, sadly though, CHA1N hears that Pika and knows instantly I can go in. That was unfortunate for DANDAKING. I would definitely say that was a mistake because it allowed CHA1N, who was at that point not sure what angle to take. That Pika comes out, I can push now. I've got nothing to fear.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the last line of defense that he has, right? CHA1N is so mobile, plus he's got an injection, can top himself right back up, heal himself before jumping into any engagement. And so, DANDAKING does not have that active ability of his own. What does he have, right? Yeah, he's got the crouch sliding, but that's nothing compared to the air control that Anarchy has. And then he's got the vials, right? The extra health when you get a kill, but you need to get a kill first. And so far, that has really not been working out for him here.
It's not good news when you're struggling to get kills in a game mode where that's the only objective.
True, true.
But DANDAKING, you know, we are talking like this is over. It is not. CHA1N is just looking a little bit more comfortable here, a little bit more in charge. DANDAKING, at this point, that rocket, honestly, surprised, was almost expecting that to hit him in the face with how CHA1N's been placing these. But again, positioning more important than all. It's going to be a heavy armor for CHA1N now. We're going to pick up those hourglasses. The inject is nice and ready, but it's not going to be needed yet. If we can get enough damage here that the inject's not necessary, best case scenario, DANDAKING just hasn't really been able to cement himself in this map. The moment something happens, he takes so much damage in return. And it's, from that point on, very, very challenging to make a comeback. All right.
Good rockets.
Yeah, really good rocket, especially with CHA1N having LG out at the time. Totally threw his aim off.
But in the end, it's still CHA1N who ends up with the better positioning afterwards because of the Mega spawn.
Oh,
now
no.
DANDAKING getting pushed right off spawn. He is able to escape, but for how long? Oh, CHA1N is gonna catch him. Oh. Good play by DANDAKING to stop right there and to realize that CHA1N would try and cut him off.
Oh, but that rocket's really good. A little bit more of that machine gun action. I've got to say, in that last fight, when he got the trap off spawn, CHA1N was out of LG ammo, so should he have had more ammo ready to go? Oh, I think he might have even obtained a frag even earlier. Sadly, though, DANDAKING does try to drop down, tries to take that heavy away, cannot manage it at all. And all of these tiny avenues where it might have given DANDAKING an inch back into this match, it just isn't working out. Dare I say, I just think this hasn't been DANDAKING's day.
I mean, it does feel like there's been several situations where he came close to getting a frag, to getting himself in control, but every single time CHA1N is able to dance away.
Put the shotgun away, he's fed up of it.
The shotgun and the rockets, right? That's really been CHA1N's bread and butter through and through. Again, CHA1N doing significantly more damage than his opponent. Let's take a look. 700 damage with the rockets, 1,000 with the LG. CHA1N's doing a hell of a good job. Now, the difference is smaller than it was previously. Around 600 damage between the two in terms of damage dealt. But CHA1N has got significantly more major items. And of course, more frags as well.
Let's just add another rocket to the tally, shall we? Because the thing about these matches, if CHA1N can secure wins like this, where, I will be honest, it doesn't really look like CHA1N is being pushed all that much in this series. You know, it's a very comfortable couple of maps for him. Everything's kind of hitting its mark. His accuracy's been fine. His rockets have been shy of perfect over the course of these two maps. These are the kind of confident maps, or confidence-building maps, that are just good for you in a tournament setting. Because this is only day 2. There are many, many more matches to get through for everyone that is still in this bracket.
Yeah.
Having to absolutely fight to the bone every time, that can really wear on your tournament fatigue.
The LG by DANDAKING, though, his previous 2 fights, that was obscene. His tracking is really, really on point. That's the best I've seen him aim throughout the entirety of these 2 matches.
I just wish it wasn't with 3.5 minutes to go.
I wish the same. If he had been able to do that from the start, things might have been a little different right now, but nope. At this point, DANDAKING is actually securing himself a frag here and there. Suicide, I mean, ultimately does the same thing, but yeah. 3 minutes to go, 7 frags separating the 2 players. This is Corrupted Keep, so it's relatively easy to chain together multiple frags, but Anarchy can just turn around and Jack run away. What are you gonna do then?
You're on Corrupted Keep as well, so you might spawn near a major item. If you spawn near the LG room, you're gonna have Mega. If you spawn near the heavy armor, you're gonna have Super Shotgun. I mean, all of those are wonderful choices in a pinch. It looks like CHA1N has actually ran out of ammo on his LG, which means that DANDAKING can take full advantage of that and punish the missed shots. As now, look, 2 minutes to go, 7 frags. I mean, it was earlier today where I saw 8 go down in about 2 minutes at the start of the map. But you got to start daisy chaining them right now, and you got to get quick.
You absolutely do. At this point, DANDAKING, look at this ketchup. That's been what, 20 plus seconds? CHA1N is going up and down banana. DANDAKING keeps trying to cut him off, but look, all CHA1N did was burn a significant amount of time, and he still managed to get away in the end. And now 90 seconds left on the clock, I think.
An inject is ready, let us not forget.
Yeah, even then.
Is CHA1N even going to need it, as these rockets are being more than a pain for DANDAKING? And yeah, we have certainly entered the realm of improbability.
That's a very polite way of putting it, Ketchup.
I'm trying to be polite because DANDAKING is such a lovely guy.
He is.
He's always, you know, big smile on his face and obviously enjoys the LAN environment. It's a real heartbreaker to see him go, but being able to make it to day 2, something only a small handful of players in the world were able to pull off, and DANDAKING was one of them. So can certainly leave this event proud of being able to get this far, but understandably probably disappointed that had it in him to go further, but today it just wasn't in his destiny, you know?
Nope. It just wasn't in the cards. Now this means that CHA1N will be advancing to the 2nd round of the lower bracket. Still got a long struggle ahead of him, but this is a good start. This is a good start, right? Because we've seen just how good CHA1N can be, right? There's been LAN's catch-up where he was, what, top 5? Something like that. He beat Cooler, he beat top-level players, and really, really made it far into the tournament. So CHA1N, if he can find that same mojo, if he can get up to the same level of play, who knows how far he'll go.
Well, CHA1N has the confidence in himself. I think we saw that yesterday. I can't recall if you saw CHA1N's interview. I don't think so. I think it was myself and ZSX. CHA1N was very much talking about the confidence in himself. He's feeling very good about his practice. He's feeling good about his matches, even to the point of talking about, you know, these players, they must have been asked, who do you think's going to win? Because they all answered the same question. CHA1N actually said, among the expected lot, he actually believes that he has it in him to win. You know, he wasn't simply mentioning other players. He said, if I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something about his practice and how his scrims he's done very well, and if he can play like that, he could possibly be the winner. And that confidence, you've got to keep that all the way through, because now in the lower bracket, this is that do or die. Some players can rise to the occasion. That's one thing we have to keep in mind, is that just because we are in the lower bracket does not mean these players have no chance. Anyone that's watched any competitive game with a double elim bracket, it's very common that it's almost a wake-up call. Yeah.
I mean, this was another really good series, right? I think that congratulations, CHA1N. He's moving on, DANDAKING. It's sad to say goodbye, but I think that is going to be it for us for the B stream for now. Don't worry, we will be back with many more games. Still got a whole lot of Quake ahead of us today, so do check out Quake 1 and Quake 2 on Twitch and YouTube.